and answer your questions. And we're really excited to welcome you all this August. If we haven't had the chance to meet, my name's Ashley. I serve as the Director of Housing Operations, meaning I work with the team that does all the back end stuff. So all of the stuff that you see in my housing, setting up everything with room selection, working through all of that, answering all the questions that we get at Housing at Temple. So I'm really excited to be with my colleague Susan today to talk more about move-in.
Hello, everyone. Like Ashley said, my name is Susan Rivers. I'm the Associate Director for Residential Planning and Assessment. That's a fancy title to say that I work mostly with the in-hall teams. So Ashley's team manages the back-end assignments. The Res Life staff is there up front. We are the ones who are ready, boots on the ground, ready to welcome your students and all of you for the move-in experience. So excited to chat with you today.
Okay, so I know the most common question that we get, when is move-in? So move-in is going to happen the week before classes begin. So classes this year are starting on Monday, August 24th. So move-in is going to happen at a staggered pace the week before. Obviously, moving in 5,000 people takes a couple days. Unfortunately, we cannot do it in 2 hours. So we stagger everybody for new students and returning students throughout the week. This is the information that was published on the website a little while ago, but Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday are going to be our big days for new and transfer students. And then our returning students, upper class students, are going to come back with us on Friday and Saturday, leaving Sunday for everybody to settle in and get ready and gear up. There's a lot of really awesome events happening throughout the week to make sure that you can get settled and feel comfortable on campus and give yourself a little bit before classes begin. All right, so before you get here, there is some things that we would ask for you to do and some reminders we've been sending out to you. Number one is you have to be registered for classes. We want you to actually be a student here. So housing students are required to register for classes and to maintain a full-time status in order to live with us. So for returning students, you were able to start registering in April. So that registration should already be complete. If you are not registering or still kind of trying to figure that out with your advisor, please make sure that you are getting that by this week. We want to make sure that we're getting everybody in as quickly as possible and having as much things confirmed before move-in day as we can. If you are a new student, we know that orientation and class registration is happening throughout this week. And throughout the month of July. So it's really important that you have that new out or advising appointment by July 1st. So if you don't have to complete it by July 1st, but please just make sure to sign up. That way we know that you are actively meeting with an advisor. You have to meet with someone in order to determine what classes are best for you. So if you do still have placement tests to do, you're not going to be able to see that appointment yet. But please make sure you're trucking through those things so that we know that you're definitely coming and that you'll be here with us in August. Another thing, a reminder we've sent out is please reach out to your roommates. An advantage of having room selection so early, for returning students, it happened in February, and for new students, most of it completed in May. It's really important that you're connecting with folks that you're going to live with before you get here. It is very awkward if you show up never having talked to these people. So please make sure that you're reaching out. We do provide everybody's email address, their name and email address in My Housing. You should be able to see that on the right-hand side. On a mobile device, you might have to scroll down a little bit, but there should be a section that shows you what's your room assignment, who are your roommates, and what meal plan do you have already reserved for you. So your roommates, it is going to show you their email address. We do not share anybody's phone number, social media information, none of that. But that's another reason why it's really important to check your email. Not only is the university sending you important information, but you don't want to miss any communications from your roommates to be able to get to know each other before you arrive. Some things that are helpful to discuss is just where you're from, what's your major. I know that's a question we get a lot. Like, do you know my roommate's major? So sometimes it's important to be able to have that academic connection, or if you don't, be able to have some different circles of friends and different social connections. You can help each other in that way, right? It's also important to talk about what items you're okay sharing. If you are living in a suite with a restroom, it might be important now to talk about, like, okay, who's getting the first round of toilet paper and who's going to bring a shower curtain, and what things we're okay sharing and maybe what things we're not okay sharing. And as we're all living in a shared space, there are some things that can be off limits, right? And once you get here, your RA is going to help you work through some of those living expectations, but it is going to be helpful ahead of time, just while you're packing and kind of getting everything ready. Having that initial conversation would help. The other thing that comes up a lot is expectations around guests and noise and quiet time and bedtime and when are lights off and all of those things. It's helpful to kind of start that conversation now. It is important to remember that roommates are allowed to have guests, right? And as long as everybody is abiding by the guest policy that is set out in our community standards, it's really important that we remember that and that we're courteous to everybody, and allowing everybody to have the same things that we would want to have in our room too. So thank you for that. Okay, so move-in times. Oh, I know everybody's on the edge of their seat about move-in times. So we actually had a schedule change. We sent out an email earlier this morning that the university is going to be closed for the Independence Day weekend. So you are going to be getting your move-in time early. So move-in times are going to be released this week on Thursday as opposed to Monday. So I know sometimes people get really upset and really stressed about move-in times. Don't be stressed. The goal is that everything goes smoothly and that everything is staggered so that you're not waiting in line for a long time. You're not waiting to park for a long time. You're not waiting for the elevator for a long time. We really try to kind of stack things out so that everybody has a good experience and that everything goes smoothly. So that's why there are different times based on the building and hall and kind of area and floor to make sure that there's no congestion. And if you do have to wait, that it's the minimum amount possible. So please make sure you're adhering to your move-in time as best you can. If you do need to make a change, you can reach out to us and we'll see if there's a different spot available for you. But in general, it is helpful to stick to the schedule as best we can. Okay, so I know there's also always questions about early arrival. There is very, very limited amount of spots available for early arrival on Monday, August 17th. So once you get your move-in time, if you do want to request an early arrival, you are welcome to do that in My Housing. There'll be a little button at the top. You are welcome to do that and see if there's a spot available. If there is not a spot available, then unfortunately we're maxed out, and we cannot have any additional early arrivals. There's a lot of summer folks that are kind of coming in and out. So unfortunately, early arrivals are very limited as we can only accommodate so many people based on our maintenance schedule. And our maintenance team is doing the best they can to make sure that rooms are ready and clean for you when you come. So we want to be mindful of all the other activities that are happening on campus as well. There is a small fee for an early arrival appointment. I just want to do a sidebar that if you are a student that has DRS accommodations and it's indicated that you need an early arrival, you would not be charged the $30 fee. So I just wanted to put that out there. Sometimes people do have a question about that, but if it's at part of your accommodations, you are not charged the fee. So yeah, that's helpful information to have.
Excellent. So we can start to move into some of the details of what will and will not be provided in each of the residence hall rooms. So as you're preparing to purchase things, I know that I've seen in Target and lots of other stores, they have their moving to your new college setups. So just as a reminder, every room, regardless of building, will include a mattress, bed frame, desk, and some sort of closet space. The majority of the mattresses on campus are twin XLs. You can see here exactly what buildings that you can find those in. The only exception is the first, second, and third floor of the 1300 community. So that's any of the 100, 200, or 300 rooms in that building. Those are standard twin beds. So as you're buying sheets or the mattress covers, if you'd like them, please make sure that you're selecting based on the right information. All bed frames outside of the 1940 building are adjustable. So our team, over the course of a few weeks after the move-in process, can support you with adjusting the beds. However, we want to be clear that bed risers, those little plastic things that you can often purchase in stores, are not permitted. They're just a safety risk, so we don't permit them in the halls. Okay, vaccination requirements. I unfortunately am known as the meningitis or the vaccination lady, which is a horrible name. But I am the person who your students or you will receive lots of emails from this summer about getting in compliance with the university's vaccination requirements. All residents are required to provide proof of immunization on their Student Health Services portal or to complete a waiver waiving their right to those vaccinations. The 4 required vaccines are for meningitis, MMR, Tdap, and chickenpox. And like I said, if you've chosen not to get those or if you're unable to provide the documentation, there is a waiver that you can complete on the Student Health Services portal. There's a QR code right here with additional information. You need to complete one of those 2 processes. Students will receive multiple warnings from some lady named Susan, that's me, and from the Office of Student Health throughout the course of the summer. It's going to say in really big bold letters that you will not be permitted to move in unless these are completed. We mean that. Unfortunately, it is Pennsylvania law for meningitis and Temple policy for the other 3 that we cannot permit a student to come in without having completed either vaccinations or the waivers, so please work with your students to ensure that is completed prior to arrival. Any communication or documentation should be sent directly to Student Health. While I facilitate the administrative side of this, I am not a public health professional. Please don't send me your vaccination records, that is not my business. Just send them directly to Student Health as the instructions provide online. Some helpful forms to complete in addition to the meningitis and vaccination waivers are the emergency contact forms. You can see here that those can be found on TU portal. So if you go to the TU profile, there's an option to update emergency contacts and addresses. This is really important. Unfortunately, one of the responsibilities we have, let's say that your student gets sick or they are injured, anything happens on campus where we need to get in touch with an emergency contact, this is going to be the first place that we look. So if students and families don't update this, we unfortunately can't get in touch with you in a timely manner. This is going to be the first place we look for that. So please make sure that that is up to date. Also, I'm not sure if folks are familiar with FERPA waivers. It's the Family Education Resource Privacy Act, something along those lines in that acronym. A FERPA waiver essentially gives other people, other than the student, access to a student's educational record. So sometimes parents, families, guardians will want to call and say, tell me everything about my student's roommate conflict, or tell me how they are doing in their classes. What I'm going to say to you if you don't have a FERPA waiver is, unfortunately, I can neither confirm nor deny that your student even attends Temple University. We're going to need you to complete a FERPA waiver. And most folks don't like that response, but your student is an adult unless they choose to give you access to that information. Our hands are tied in that situation. So we would encourage you to talk to your students over the course of the summer. Make sure that those waivers are completed for any individual who may need additional information about your student, as that will allow us to share more freely with you. A few things about what to pack. I will not get into an extensive list, but please just know that on our website, you can find lots of information about what we recommend that you bring and also a list of things that you are not permitted to bring. Please make sure that you review both. We try to be crystal clear in what's called our community living standards document, which has all of the things that folks are and are not permitted to bring. Again, the community living standards has all of that information. This also has a lot of information about our general policies in the residence hall, what students are and are not permitted to do and bring. So while it's not very exciting summer reading, we do encourage folks to review it prior to getting here. There's no sense in sort of risking documentation or having to go through the conduct process for something that could have just been left at home to begin with. Something else that we're asking for folks to really consider this year prior to move-in is unboxing your items prior to your arrival. It is a sustainability measure that the university is trying to do to reduce cardboard waste. If you've ever seen a move-in at a university campus, every inch of campus is covered in cardboard boxes. All we are asking is that whenever possible, please break those down at home and leave them at home to recycle them. We do have recycling options on campus, but anything you can do to help reduce the impact would be really, really appreciated. All right, let's talk about move-in day. Move-in day and move-in week is my favorite time of the year. I love it so, so much. It's my baby. All that I always share with students, and maybe one day I'll regret this, but I haven't yet, is I can pretty much guarantee you at this point, I can get your student checked in and your car unloaded and get you moving into the building within about 15 minutes if you follow all the instructions that are sent to you over the course of the summer. Like Ashley said, the first thing is your arrival time. You are given, what, Ashley, an hour block to arrive in, half-hour block. Obviously, we know traffic happens, there's some flexibility there, but as Ashley said, that really allows us to bring people in strategically. Certain buildings, like the really tall ones, we sort of have to fill top to bottom. Other buildings, it's a little bit more flexible. So please stick to your arrival time as best as possible. Students will receive emails from their resident director, that's the staff member who lives in the building with them, to provide direct support to them. They'll receive that email usually the week before move-in and maybe even earlier to give some teasers about that experience, about exactly what move-in will look like in your building. When you arrive, TUPD, which is our police force, and our security team will be all over the place. You will see officers dressed like you do here that are there to essentially direct traffic. You will be assigned to or directed to a location where you can unload your vehicle. What should happen when you arrive to your hall is that we ask that families, friends, and guests stay at the vehicle and unload the vehicle while the student goes in to check in. I know that moms and dads love to see the check-in process of their sweet angels. I never want to leave my kid alone either. However, it does sort of add to the congestion, and it's really helpful and keeps our flow moving if folks can stay outside and unload the car. While students come inside to check in, they're going to get their room key. We're going to verify that they are up to date with the vaccination requirements or the waivers. They will get a wristband. So any guest that the student brings will be given a color-coded wristband. That is your access to the building for the day. So you can help your student with move in and move out. During the year, as Ashley mentioned, students will get an actual guest card. So that security band is really just for the day of move-in, and you'll get a parking pass. Just as a reminder, we are asking that you only bring one vehicle to move in. If you have more than one vehicle, regardless of where you live on campus, I can guarantee you have too much stuff. So please remember that you'll only get a parking pass for one vehicle. You'll be moved to a parking lot that is closest to your building, and we ask that you park there for 2 hours or less. That gives you plenty of time to unload in the room, start to help your student get ready to set up, and then we will say our goodbyes. We have plenty of things, as Ashley said, for students to do after the move-in process. And then what do we do afterward? Obviously, we want students to introduce themselves to their roommates, suite mates, other members of the community. That evening, whatever night that your student or you move in, there will be what we call a community meeting. It's your opportunity to get connected to other people who live on your floor, to learn a little bit about some of the initial policies. Really, what do you need to know to get through this first week of the Temple experience, which is so exciting. The other thing that we offer, we will also take students to some of the Welcome Week events. We'll keep them connected to other events going on campus, one of which is Convocation. A lot of folks don't necessarily know what that is, but it's essentially the opposite of graduation. So if graduation sends students off and says goodbye, Convocation says hello. It welcomes you to Temple. So it is sort of a full major pep rally. All of the faculty are in their academic regalia. It is really our welcome to students, and that'll be on Friday morning. And then, as I said, there will be additional events throughout the course of the week until classes start on that Monday. Ashley, you want to talk move-in resources?
Sure. So I know we've been sending out a lot of emails and hopefully that's been helpful for you. The best resource that you can possibly use is our website and the move-in guide. I know that the go to the website thing is hard. I don't like it either, but specifically, please go to the move-in guide. So we do have a QR code here. The move-in guide has everything you could want to know and maybe some stuff you don't want to know. Whole ton of stuff in there for you. It is pretty beefy, but we did try to include all of the common questions. Where am I going to eat? What's going to happen? We tried to include everything that's possible that we could think of to make sure that you're prepared. A lot of the snippets and things that we pulled from today are also included in the move-in guide. It's under resources on our website. There's a lot of other helpful information. So other thing I just wanted to share is that the move-in website also has a bunch of the other information we shared. So the before you arrive, what to pack, all of those things are kind of tabs on that page for easy reference later. We do include some dimensions and things there, and also some helpful resources such as getting a microfridge, things like that. All of that is available for you. So I'm not just saying go to the website to be rude or to, whatever. I feel like sometimes people get a little put off by that, but truly we did try to think of everything possible to be able to have it there for you. If you do have any questions, please let us know, but we tried to tackle as many questions as we could and have the info available for you. I think that was it. Look at us go. So I think for a lot of our formal content, those were the most of the questions that we get. So as part of my job in housing, I manage the Housing at Temple email address as well as the phone. So any of those tickets that come in, you're kind of getting those responses from our team. These are the most common things that people do tend to ask. If you do have super granular questions, please feel free to email us, reach out anytime. Please feel free to follow us also on social media. We do post a bunch of stuff there. We're going to post on move-in day and tag people. So if you haven't done that yet, please feel free to do that. This is a great slide to screenshot for our contact information. So that was all the formal stuff that we had for you. So you can feel free if there are questions that we didn't get to or didn't address. We're happy to jump into some of those questions now. So Susan, it looks like there's a question about the community meeting. Do you know about what the evening meeting will be? It looks like you did talk a little bit about that. Do you want to expand a little more?
So it will vary from building to building and floor to floor. So for example, in Morgan South moves in over the course of 3 days. So not everyone will have their floor meeting on the same exact day. Your floor meeting will be advertised on your floor when you arrive. So as soon as you get off the elevator or out of the stairs, there will be a big sign that says your community meeting is at 6 o'clock in the green lounge. Your community meeting is at 7 o'clock in the orange lounge. It will be very clear to you. If for some reason you or your student is unable to attend the community meeting, The RA will follow up with them directly to make sure that they have all of the information that they need. So just please keep that in mind. We do ask that all students attend, but I know some folks, maybe if you're in band or if you have some other commitment already, we can be flexible and the RA can follow up after the fact. I see some other questions coming in. Um, Ashley, I'll put this one to you. When do we pay for housing? And is that payment made monthly or do you make the payment in full?
That's a good one. So, the billing for fall semester, everything comes out at the same time. So, your housing, your meal plan, tuition, all of that stuff is in one place. So, you're going to be getting that communication from the bursar. All of that is going to be the same as your tuition and kind of all in the same spot. So, if you go under next week when bills are released, you're going to be able to go under, maybe not next week. I think next week. Keep an eye on your email. It's going to be in TU Portal under the costs and aid tab for students. That's going to have your most up-to-date information along with TU Pay and all of that stuff. I know the Bursar does have a deadline for fall semester for when bills are due, as well as spring. There are some different payment plan options. I'm not the authority on that, so please make sure to go to their website and see if there's a which payment plan options might be the best for you, and making sure that all of your financial aid information is up to date. So housing kind of follows the same schedule that tuition does. So I hope that information is helpful. I want to jump in if we can. There's a great question here about how can you tell what floor you're on when you look at your room? Oh, okay. So I'm going to do an example of a room assignment that is in Whitehall. So if we see that my room assignment is in Whitehall and the room that I have is, if this thing would come up, if the room that I have is D440A2, so that means that you are in Whitehall. It's going to say WH, right? That means Whitehall. D means the D wing. Doesn't really mean a lot to you, honestly. Whitehall's the only one that's separated that way. So maybe this wasn't the best example. Just roll with me. So you're going to be in that wing. It's like a hotel. So like when you see 440, that means you're on the fourth floor in room number 40. A, meaning the A bedroom. So either A side or B side if you're in a suite. Or if you're just in a double, everything will be A because there's only one bedroom, right? And then 1 or 2 corresponds with the actual bed you're going to be in. So it is really important that you're moving into the correct space. God forbid a million times, like Susan said, if there's some type of emergency, if there's a leak, if there's a whatever, I need to know who I'm contacting or who lives there to be able to determine what the best course of action is. So if people are moving in and they're deciding to switch sides and all that stuff, you can't do that. Please talk to somebody before you do that, and make sure that people agree. We're not just hijacking somebody else's room assignment. It's really important that we kind of have all of the records correct. Again, God forbid, in case of an emergency. So an example for 1940, I just pulled one up. So for 1940, the initials is LW. So that means 1940 Liacoris Walk. That's the street it's on, right? So it's named after the street. And then it says West. So it's going to be East or West for that building. 319A-1. So for that student, they would be on the third floor, room 19, in the A bedroom, in the first bed. So that's kind of how the room assignments work. I know that's pretty confusing. If you do have a question about that and need help figuring out where you're supposed to be, please feel free to reach out to Housing at Temple and we will get that taken care of for you. It looks like there's also a couple questions about class registration. So for returning students, they should already have registered for classes because that started at like the beginning of April. So if returning students, they might be registered for some credits right now. We do want everybody to get at full time by the end of this week if they can. If they are still working with an advisor, still trying to get into some classes, we understand. But if somebody's not registered at all by this point, especially a returning student, they are at risk for losing their housing, right? There are other students that are waiting. So we need to make sure that we're maximizing and offering as many spots as possible. For new students who are signing up for orientation and doing advising, we ask that your reservation is done by July 1st, just so we know that you have the plans and you're kind of doing things and moving through and getting that registration completed. We're more concerned about you registering for orientation and getting your advising done. You don't have to have it completed by July 1st. It's just making sure that you have a reservation made. So I hope that's helpful.
I can hop in with another question. Are there organized activities after scheduled move-in days, or are we just on our own to acclimate to campus? That is an excellent question. While we know that you are all wonderful, competent human beings, that would be unfair for us to just throw you into the college experience. There are absolutely activities during the evening and on the days. So let's say you move in on Tuesday, there will still be plenty of stuff for you to do Wednesday through Sunday until classes start. That's everything from fun events like dance parties, and I think there's a silent disco, there's usually a movie night, there's a hypnotist, there's bingo, all kinds of very fun things. There's also, I actually help facilitate a session called Discover Philly. We run tours around Philadelphia in a variety of neighborhoods to get folks acclimated if you're not from the city, or maybe even if you are and just want to learn more. There's lots of opportunities to get into the city. We usually run some buses down to IKEA and Target, and we just take over the stores for a night. So there is plenty to be done the day you move in and also throughout the course of the week. And then, like Ashley said, things will start to wind down a little bit on Sunday to help folks get ready for classes on Monday.
Yeah, let me jump in. I think there's been a couple questions now about, can I see my room when I'm on campus for orientation? Oh, we would love for you to be able to do that, and we totally understand wanting to get a visual of the space. Unfortunately, campus is in use over the summer. So either buildings are closed due to maintenance or renovations, or people are living there. On campus throughout the summer, we have a lot of different groups and guests and summer classes and orientation and all kinds of stuff happening. So unfortunately, we cannot do tours, unlike buildings are not open to be able to see your specific room on orientation day. We do have virtual tours available. There's pictures on the website. There's floor plans, room diagrams to give you the best possible image of what the room will look like. So unfortunately, we're not able to do those individual tours, but we hope that information will be helpful for you to be able to get a picture before you move in. Okay. Oh, it looks like we have some micro fridge questions. Susan, you want to jump in on micro fridge? Oh, we love them. They're so handy.
We were just talking to them this morning. Microfridge is an excellent partner of ours. So I actually just answered the question, but for anyone who was unable to see, we do partner with a company called Microfridge, which is exactly what it says. It's a microwave and a refrigerator attached together in a single unit. These are cleared sort of electricity wise in all of our communities. Students are not permitted to bring their own microwave to campus. They can bring their own refrigerator if they choose to, but it has to be smaller than 3.6 cubic feet. So for a lot of folks, that doesn't meet their personal needs. So instead, we connect you with Microfridge. All of the information, again, is on our website about exactly how to contact them. You rent the unit from them for the course of the year. And that's it. You have the service that you need in your room. The other thing that I always recommend is work with your roommates if you're able to over the summer, because a lot of students choose to share their micro fridge. So maybe one of you rents the micro fridge and somebody else buys the TV. It's a good thing to work out. You are permitted to each have your own micro fridge if you would prefer, or if you need that for sort of dietary reasons. But if you want to share, go for it.
Okay, there seems to be a lot of questions going back and forth about beds. So how high can the beds go? How low do the beds go? We want to maximize. I understand underbed storage. That's maximizing. We gotta, right? So for each building, the beds do operate a little differently. So like we said, for 1940, unfortunately, those beds are not adjustable. But if you're looking for bins, anything around 20 inches, you'll be good to go. Kind of slide that in and out. For other buildings, there might be differences in what the adjustments might be. Anything between 20 and 30 inches generally is okay. If you're trying to get something that's 4 foot, you might be cutting it a little close. That might have to go somewhere else. If you have really specific questions about your specific room and dimensions, we do have some of that available. So please feel free to send us an email at housing@Temple, and we will do our best to get back to you and to provide the most up-to-date information that we have. But generally, the like 20 inches in 1940, 20 to 30 inches in other places are generally okay.
I also see quite a few questions coming in about bed spaces. So here's what I'll say. Ashley gave excellent examples of your building code, where to find your room number, what it means to be inside A and B. Between now and August the 18th, most of you are going to forget everything that we said, and that's totally fine. You can watch this webinar again if you really, really want to know. But also, when you go through the check-in experience, you'll be handed an envelope that has that on it. So there's usually a little diagram. So when you walk in the room, you'll see on the diagram, I'm bed space A1. That will be highlighted for you so you know exactly what bed to go into. Or your student staff member who checks you in will walk you through that. So if you do forget that, we ask that you do your best to remember what bed space that you were assigned to, but it will also be on your check-in packet when you arrive.
Okay, it looks like, oh, I think there's a question about the room numbers for Hardwick. So Hardwick and Johnson are very easy because it's H-A, Hardwick, and J-O, Johnson. Those are a little easier. So that's the same thing. So the students who are moving in, if it's like room 1012, 10th floor, room number 12. Now, in Johnson and Hardwick, most of them are all going to be A bedrooms, right? Because they don't have those two options. So, generally, if you're in an A bedroom in Johnson Hardwick, it's just the bedroom. And then one or two is going to be left side, right side. That's generally how that goes. So yes, if you do have questions as you're moving through, you're not sure where to go, there will be plenty of staff available to help you throughout that day. But yes, Hardwick and Johnson are a little easier because you're not separated by side.
While we're talking about J&H, which is what we call Johnson and Hardwick, I'll also address a question about the bathroom situation. So Johnson and Hardwick are our only communities that remain as what we would call traditional style residence halls. So that is where students live in a double room, but there are shared bathrooms on the floor. Those bathrooms are split by gender. And so even if you are on a co-ed floor where, let's say, Room 101 is a male identified space and room 102 is a female identified space. There will still be a male and female identified bathroom for students to use. So just adding clarity to that question as well. And while I'm chatting, I'm happy to answer the question about where should I park during move-in based on your building. Any building on the south side, which is Morgan North, Morgan South, 1300 and Temple Towers, you will be directed to park temporarily on Cecil B. Moore Avenue while you unload. Then, based on what time of day you arrive and how many spaces are available, you will be directed to a lot either 1 to 2 blocks away, depending on how many spaces are left. I promise that there will be plenty of police officers there telling you exactly where to go. The city is built on a grid, so it's really easy to follow. Johnson Hardwick and Whitehall, you unload directly on Broad Street. So we block off space on that sort of major thoroughfare in the city. And then 1940 has what is known as Norris Street, which is a smaller street, and they're the only building who has to unload on that street. You will get all of this information in your move-in guide, and we will be overwhelmed with the amount of signage that is on campus to help guide you.
Yep, I think there was another question about, are there layouts we can look at to get an idea of our rooms before getting there in person? Absolutely. So I did refer to those that were on the website, but I'm going to put the link here so that I'm going to put it in the chat for you. Each residence hall on our website has its own page. So on there, there's information specific about that building, who the staff are that are in that building. They are not your best point of contact. I will just say that in August, they are very busy getting ready for all the things. So if you do have questions, Housing at Temple is the best resource for you. But so when you get these emails from certain people, you'll know right away, like, oh, that's my resident director. It's really important for you to become familiar with those names as they're a good resource for you. So each residence hall has its own page that has floor plans and room diagrams on there. Even if the rooms differ a little bit, there's generally a room diagram for every single one, so that you can get a good picture of like, okay, I'm going to go in and my bathroom is going to be on this side, and then you'll be able to see that. So that's a great resource for you as well. On the main page of the website, there is a link to a virtual tour. It is a couple years old, but the basic layouts are still the same. So if you wanted to get that visual, there is a 360 where you can like spin yourself around to a couple different unit types just to get a better picture. For that one, we don't have every single area of every single thing, but we hope that at least having a little bit of a suite view or of a double view will be helpful for you. Let me pipe in really quick about registering for classes. If you already have 12 credits, does housing know? Yes. I promise. I promise we're monitoring that. So I know there was a couple other questions about like, what if my appointment isn't until this date? If you get communication from us that says, hey, you've been flagged for this reason or whatever. If you respond and say, hey, this is my confirmation, I have my appointment coming up, that would be great. Just so we know that you are meeting with someone and talking with someone and that you're not running into some kind of issue where you're not able to register at all. So those are great questions. Thank you for that.
I see quite a few questions about room change or room swaps.
Mhm.
Like we said, all that we ask is that during the week of move-in, stay in the space that was assigned to you. We love that you're making new friends. We love that you have figured out that the A room has better lighting than the B room. Whatever reason you want to swap, we understand. Students will receive information from us when what we call sort of room change or room swap process becomes available. So let's say that there's a conflict in the space and they may need some support. We like to work through that with students prior to conducting a room change. Let's say that it's a clean swap though, and the student in A1 and the student in B2 just want to switch bed spaces. That's very easy for us to do. However, we just ask that students wait until the entire move-in process is complete, so we have a really good understanding of how many empty beds we have and where they are. So yes, there are options to do that. We just ask folks to hold tight really till after classes have started, probably close to that first week of September, for us to conduct any of those changes.
Yeah, if I can pipe in, Susan, on that a little bit, if somebody reaches out to us now, and they already know, like, oh, our room assignment got messed up. We actually wanted these two people and these two people to be together. If it's within the same suite, we can do that for you ahead of move-in day. So we would prefer that everybody be in agreement, right? We're not just changing random people. If everyone is in agreement and you want to email us now, you can, and we'll take care of in-unit swaps for you on move-in day. Once it's kind of past that time, there's already a lot going on. We're going to say no at that point, and wait until everybody is moved in and then kind of go from there. But if you've already kind of talked and you prefer to be by this bathroom and not by the whatever the reason is, that's okay. And we can help with that now. Again, if it's within the same unit, if it's, I want a room change to a different floor, no, unfortunately, that is going to have to wait until after move-in is complete. Okay. Susan, I don't know if you have if additional information about transportation. around campus. Do you know if the flight shuttle service goes to grocery areas?
Yeah, so
I'm
we have
leaning
a
on you
couple
for
of
that. I'm out of my element on that one.
there's a couple of different options. The question is there transportation options around campus if folks need to go get groceries or anything else? The answer is absolutely. So there's a couple of different options. We have public transportation in the city of Philadelphia, which is called SEPTA. So all of campus is accessible via bus and subway, like the underground line. That will get students into the city, sort of all over the place, in addition to connecting with the regional rail, which will get them out into the suburbs and sort of into nearby states. We also have an on-campus service called Flight. That's a shuttle service that operates within pretty much a 20 block radius around campus that is designed to sort of pick up students throughout the neighborhood. So if you need to run to Fresh Grocer, if you want to go to a friend's house to have a study session, all of those things are accessible via Flight. That is run by TU Police or Campus Safety. So we would refer you to their information for exact schedules and what that rotation looks like, but there are absolutely options. Like I said, during the week of move-in, our student activities team does usually run shuttle buses specifically to take students to the large Walmart, Target, IKEA, like the major retail locations in South Philly. So that is specifically for move-in week, but there are plenty of options to get around in addition to Uber or Lyft or things like that. Someone asked, how do we know who our RA will be, and do we get this information before move-in? You generally won't know exactly who your RA is. You will get an introductory email from your RD, and sometimes they take an opportunity to introduce the entire team. Some teams have 27 RAs on them, so it would be a lot to introduce all of them. However, you will meet them that first night. We also schedule RAs, usually to work the check-in shift when their floor is moving in. So as soon as you come up to the table, if I'm your RA, I'll say, "Oh my goodness, I'm your RA. It's so nice to meet you." So if not during the check-in experience, by that evening, you will meet your staff member. If you do have concerns and you would like to know who your RA is faster, that's something that our team can assist with. But our RAs are in training for the 2 weeks prior to your arrival. So again, like Ashley said before, they will have pretty limited access to their email or to get in touch with you because we run full days of training to make sure that they're prepared for your arrival. I also see a question about, is it okay to bring siblings or other folks to move-in day? Absolutely. While we limit it to one car that we will give you a parking pass for, we know that for some families, this is a huge event. This is very exciting. And so you can bring siblings. Anyone who is with you, though, must wear the wristband. And there are limitations into how late any of those folks can stay. And again, all of that will be publicized in the move-in guide, and you'll get that information on the day that you check in.
Ooh, Susan, question about air fryers, toaster ovens.
I know. I'm the no fun one here. I get meningitis, I get parking, and I
I
get to
know,
tell you all the
it's
stuff you can't bring.
like, man,
Um,
sorry.
so unfortunately, we don't permit any of the items that were listed there, toaster ovens, toasters, things like that. Anything with what we call an open heat source isn't permitted in the residence halls. While I understand that that may be an inconvenience to folks as an individual, the context I always try to provide is if you lived in a building with 1,000 18-year-olds, would you trust all the 18-year-olds with an open heat source? And if we can't say yes, for safety reasons and for fire code reasons, we can't permit it. There are some differences in the apartment style and the communal style halls. All of those details are in the community living standards document. So again, that was linked in this presentation. So there are some nuances. So you can bring a Keurig because a Keurig has an automatic shutoff and isn't hot to the touch anywhere. So please just review that for like specific appliances that you might be allowed to bring.
There's a comment about do your best to not bring cardboard boxes. Correct. Using reusable blue zip bags. Yes, that's great. I don't know if anybody goes to IKEA, but they have these giant bags with handles that I'm telling you work better than any box. So anything you can do to avoid cardboard, it's flimsy, it gets in the way, it's hard to recycle. We would really appreciate keeping an eye on our sustainability. Reusable bags are great. You can also keep them and use them for groceries or whatever as you're kind of moving around campus. So that's a great option. There's a couple more questions about registration, so I just want to pipe in on that. How do you know if you're registered for New Owl Advising? That's a great question. You should be able to see that in TU Portal. So under your next steps channel, it will tell you the things for registration that you still need to complete. So if you're already registered for New Owl Advising, that next step shouldn't be there for you, right? And you should be able to see your appointment coming up under your student tools. And then I think there was another question about that, but I don't see. Oh, about your meeting to register for classes. That's a great question. The meeting with your advisor. Unfortunately, I'm not an advisor, so I'm not sure exactly how those meetings work. But generally, you are talking about your transcript, you're talking about your major, and you're really trying to identify what classes make the most sense for you. So I'm not sure. I think there are some colleges that do kind of register you in that moment. There are other colleges that they might make like a plan with you and then register a little bit later. I think it really depends on what your program is to make sure that they have enough course offerings for everybody and to be able to get everybody in the right academic program and the right track. So unfortunately, I can't speak to what exactly goes on in those meetings, but that's my understanding is they may register you in that moment, but they also may need to wait a little bit.
So we have about 5 minutes left. So just to
Oh,
give
go
folks some,
so
I know.
fast.
Looks like we've answered 75 questions. So I'm going to catch my breath for a second. One of the questions was, are there dorm inspections? So yes, our team does inspect the residence halls for sort of health and safety purposes. So all buildings, every single room, every single bed space will be checked by both the maintenance and Res Life team prior to students arriving. Then once in the fall and once during the spring, there will be what we call health and safety inspections. An RA will enter the room, will sort of look around and do a scan and make sure that there's no clear policy violations or health and safety concerns, that the fire safety materials are working correctly. Those are not surprises. So we will never just come into your room and call it an inspection. Those are scheduled. And so you'll know in advance when those health and safety inspections are going to take place. What about the cleaning of the rooms? Is it done by other people or by ourselves? There's a little bit of nuance here. In Johnson and Hardwick, which is our communal style residence hall, all of the bathrooms, because they are shared, are cleaned by our in-house maintenance staff. Everywhere else, this is an excellent task to work on this summer. If you don't already know how to clean your room, clean your bathroom, wash your dishes, we should practice. This is an excellent opportunity to learn those skills because you will be responsible for keeping your own rooms clean. Our team does manage all of the common spaces. They do all of the hallways, all of the floors throughout the building, but you are responsible for your specific room. As much as it's gross, I always like to share that usually around like October, November, we'll get a lot of emails that say, there's mold in my room. Oh my goodness, we take that very seriously. We will send our staff out. It's not mold. Folks just haven't cleaned since their mom cleaned their room when they moved in August. And so we are happy to continue to have those educational conversations with students. But yes, you are responsible for cleaning your own room.
There was also a question about, can you bring your own vacuum? We would love for you to bring cleaning supplies with you. So for your room, depending on if it's carpeted or not, most rooms are not carpeted so that you can bring your own. Some people like to bring like a sweeper, a little Swiffer, something like that. We highly recommend doing that and having those supplies with you. Again, that's something that's really great to talk to your roommates about, right? Is okay, if we need a Swiffer, if we need a garbage bag or whatever for our room, who's going to take care of that? So that's another great conversation to have in terms of cleaning and supplies and who's going to take care of what.
Mhm. Each front desk, if you don't necessarily want to bring a vacuum, also does have one that you can essentially rent out, like a material. You would just need to go to the front desk of your building, ask for it, and then return it. So every building does have one if you don't necessarily want to bring your own. All right, I think that we are right at time. Whew. 82 questions answered. I know that there are still some left in the chat, but hopefully we hit as much as we possibly can.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna knock out like two more of these questions. Okay. If you have specific questions about J&H, I know that there are some questions about cooking and community spaces. Please email us about that. Can you regulate your own room temperature? That's a great question. There are rooms that have thermostats. So you are able to set a temperature, but the range to which you are allowed to set it is controlled. So I think there's a range of like 67 to 73 or something like that. You cannot put it at 55 and you cannot put it at 85. So it's really important that you're bringing the right clothing, blankets, a little fan. We do try to be as sustainable as possible for students in their rooms. And then it looks like, yeah, there's a question about, do you offer materials to help students? We do offer carts. I feel like that was something that we didn't talk about, but there are carts available on move-in day that you can check out and be able to wheel things up to the room and put it back. Unfortunately, there is not help with like physically unloading items and things like that, but we do try to have some carts available to get things to your room as easy as possible. And trash disposal is another great question. There are dumpsters outside of each building, but again, we want to do the best that we can to reduce waste on move-in day, as well as trash rooms on each floor. All right, 101. I think that's it, everybody. We did it. Thank you so much. These are all really excellent questions. We are always excited when people have good questions because that means you're being really thoughtful about your experience and planning ahead, and we'd love to see that.